Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about the release of Blades in the Dark. It's a brand new tabletop role-playing game by John Harper, and it was released by 1-7 and also Evil Hat Games, which means that Fred Hicks is in the mix here too. So, to preface this, the reason why I'm talking about this today is, in my opinion, John Harper is among the greatest minds in tabletop role-playing game design today. And I kind of want to paint the picture of where he exists within the sphere of tabletop role-playing game design. So the top names in tabletop role-playing game designs today are the following: Mike Mearls, Monty Cook, Luke Crane, Fred Hicks, John Harper, and Robin D. Laws. Okay, and it's really hard to understand where they lie within the framework of tabletop role-playing game design. So I'm going to attempt to do that by giving you corollaries to each man. Right. By the way, I'm aware that there are no women on that list. This is, I follow tabletop role-playing games at the level of industry. And Emily Care Boss has recently done Bubble Gumshoe, but I'm not sure why. Please, someone out there, I would love to be told I'm wrong here. I just don't see any female designers at this level where they've created their own games and multiple games, and they're impacting the industry here. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Just throwing that out there. So I'm aware that list is all male. I wish it wasn't. But right now, I'm not seeing somebody who's done multiple games and has impacted the industry at a major level on the female side. I think Emily Care Boss, Anna Creeder, they're coming up and they're going to get there. I think they're headed toward a list, but please let me know if I'm wrong. If there's somebody, I'm aware of Shauna Germain's work. I just don't think there's nobody on the list yet. Sorry. All right, but please let me know if I'm missing anybody. All right. So with that said, I would say that the biggest dogs right now are Mike Mearls and Monty Cook. They really are, respectively, Edison and Tesla, right? And that's just about, I think that perfectly explains their position in industry, their position to one another, who they are and what they are. I think it's just the analogy could not be more apt, in my opinion. Okay. All right. Robin D. Laws, right? He is a really important guy. I would say he is Truman Capote. Came forward and did something with the genre that nobody else did. And he's also a really positive force within the community. I would say that Robin D. Laws is the Truman Capote of the tabletop role-playing game world. Luke Crane. I absolutely love Luke Crane's work. It never seems to get a lot of traction. And so, in my opinion, I think Luke Crane is the Walter M. Miller Jr. of the tabletop role-playing game world. Walter M. Miller Jr. wrote Canticle for Leibowitz in the 1960s. And then he struggled so hard to write anything else that was brilliant that he ended up killing himself. Now, I don't think that's the case with, I don't think at all that is the case here, but I do think Luke Crane has struggled to get a game that's really broken through the surface and gone beyond tabletop role-playing game enthusiasts, right, to the point of really rivaling some of the bigger games, right? And so I really feel like I don't know, it's interesting. He's brilliant, and his work has absolutely impacted the industry, but also I'm kind of waiting for that thing that he makes that really catches and gets traction, right? So and then Fred Hicks. So Fred Hicks is really, believe it or not, I think for a long time I always knew Fred Hicks was brilliant, but I really didn't think he was at the level of Monty Cook or Mearls, and I've started to realize that that's just wrong, right? Like that Fred Hicks is absolutely brilliant, and he is absolutely one of the biggest minds in tabletop role-playing game but not from the level of, one, I do think from the level of role-playing game design, he is amazing, but now he's bringing forward amazing other people. So more than many of the other people I've talked about, he is going and finding new voices and brilliant undersung heroes of the tabletop role-playing game and putting them at the level they should be at. And that's exactly what he's done with John Harper. So for Fred Hicks, I would say that he is the Steven Spielberg of the tabletop role-playing game community, where he has some massive hits that affect the industry at a massive level. And and it's just, I think that's the best. Steven Spielberg fits with what he's done and where he's at, right? Now, who is John Harper, the guy who wrote Blades in the Dark, which is the game that I'm talking about today? Well, John Harper is David Reese. David Reese is an artisanal pencil sharpener in New York, right? And that's exactly what John Harper is. John Harper is this super weird savant of tabletop role-playing game design, who I feel like sits above, has for a long time sat above the playing field. And what he's done for a long time, and you can go see these, like he created Laser and Feelings and Ghost Lines and these really weird one-off games that are like 6 pages long and are generally free and can be played in an evening and are really helpful to introduce new players to role-playing games. And he's a visual designer. He's a writer, and he's just absolutely brilliant when it comes to tabletop role-playing game design. But his ideas were so far out there that they were that in some ways he was helpful to introduce new players to tabletop role-playing games. But he was almost like kryptonite to a D&D player, right? Because if you took a bog standard Dungeons and Dragons player from any edition and introduced them to John Harper's work, it would just make them recurl. It would, like, they would see it as like curdled milk, right? But the reality is, his material is so brilliant. It's hard. It's completely non-intuitive. It's absolutely non-intuitive, right? But it is beautiful and it's brilliant. And it's like one of those old those old pictures from the 80s and the 90s. Like, you can't see it until you get your eyes in just the right way, right? Now, that's what his work was like. And the reason why is that until Blades in the Dark, he never had a fully fleshed tabletop role-playing game, okay? But now he does. Blades in the Dark is beautiful. It is an elegant work of art from top to bottom, and it is a stunning tabletop role-playing game. It comes in 2 parts. So I bought the PDF, and I got the PDF for $20, and for that, I got a 336-page PDF rulebook, which is all black and white. Now, normally I would complain about this, but this story is about crime in Victorian steampunk era. Okay, so the black and white, like, it beautifully matches the setting. So normally, the only thing I would ding the book for at having black and white art actually like perfectly meshes with the setting. So with that said, so it's 336 page gorgeous rule book, right? With, and the rules are so good, right, that one of 2 things is going to happen. This game is going to blow up like crazy, right? And it's going to impact the industry because everybody's playing it, or very few people will get it, but tabletop role-playing game designers will definitely read it, and the ideas he presents here, the structure he presents here, are going to permeate the tabletop role-playing game industry within the next 1 to 5 years, just through osmosis, through the impact he has on other designers. It is an absolute masterpiece. And in addition to that, in addition to the 336-page rulebook, it comes with a 60-page auxiliary pack of character sheets, right, crew sheets, and then just some of the most innovative work I've ever seen done on presenting a setting through auxiliary material. It's stunning. Like, it's absolutely amazing. So if you are a tabletop role-playing game enthusiast, what do I mean by that term? I mean, like, okay, so there's just a ton of people in the industry who play D&D, and that's it, right? And then, I'm sorry to do this, but if you play Pathfinder, you're in that same group. If you play Pathfinder, you're just playing Dungeons & Dragons 3.75. And there's a huge community of them. So, you in the tabletop role-playing game community, you have, I would say there's like essentially 3 groups, right? You have Dungeons & Dragons players, which includes Pathfinder players, who play that game almost exclusively, and maybe they dabble in a game here or there. And then you have indies, right? So indies are people who really kind of scoff at Dungeons & Dragons games, and they don't really buy them, and they feel like they've moved beyond them, and they play a lot of indie games. There are some people who play Fate that are like this. Fiasco has a high number of these people. There's just quite a few. So there's a lot of them out there, and it's a significant issue. So you have the indies, and then you have tabletop role-playing game enthusiasts. So tabletop role-playing game enthusiasts are people who really like tabletop role-playing games, right? Just tabletop role-playing games. And essentially they love when they see a new tabletop role-playing game, because it kind of doesn't even matter if it's good or bad, right? It's either licensed or it's non-licensed, or it has new rule set, or it has a new setting. And and if you pick that role-playing game up, you're going to see what to do or what not to do in creating a tabletop role-playing game. And they're just excited about tabletop role-playing games at the tabletop role-playing game level, right? I don't think there's a ton of us, but I'm definitely one of them. But if you're a tabletop role-playing game, this is a must-buy. Like, you have to get it right away. I would get the PDF. It's fantastic, and there's a lot of advantages to it. So I would definitely get the PDF. And then, and also, if you are a steampunk fan, this is a deadlock buy. I would say, if you're an Evil Hat fan, if you're a Fred Hicks fan, you're going to love this, right? And then if you're a Dungeons and Dragons player, I hesitate to tell you to buy this, and the reason why is I'm not sure you have the structure yet to dig into this and dig it and see where it's coming from. So honestly, I do think that Dungeons and Dragons players should play this game, but I'm not sure that they should buy it and try to run it. I think they need to be brought into it by someone who is familiar with Fiasco type games, with indie type games, Fiasco, Fate, Dungeon World, the more innovative games. So, and also to us out here who are on that side, who have dug those games and really like them, I think there's work to be done to bring the Dungeons and Dragons crew in. I hope I'm wrong, and that this game is complete enough, and that the rules are graspable enough that maybe some of the Pathfinder players and some of the Dungeons and Dragons players can start to bleed over. I think that would really be wonderful. But overall, Cthulhu Calais, man, I am just so hyped that Blades in the Dark is out. And honestly, I think the big thing here is one of the greatest minds in tabletop role-playing games has created a 100% complete tabletop role-playing game. That is a massive feat. Big applause to John Harper. This was a really big deal. They raised over $200,000 through Kickstarter and backer kit and things like that, and I'm really excited about that. I'm just so proud of John Harper and what he's accomplished, and I'm just really super hyped for. I'm so happy that this game is in my world now, and I'm just super hyped about playing it, and definitely wanted to share my thoughts on it. Take care, everybody.